Welcome to the Parenting Different podcast, where we share real adoption stories, have honest conversations, and give hope for the hard days. We're here to encourage parents, build understanding, and make sure that every child is seen, heard, and valued. Hello, and welcome to the Parenting Different podcast. Today we have Janelle Basham with us. I got to meet Janelle a couple months ago, and I have just absolutely fallen in love with her. I think she's fantastic. And I'm so excited that you are here with us today and you're going to share some of your story. And actually, I don't think I even know your full story. I know little bits and pieces of it. So I'm excited for
Fantastic.
this today too.
Well,
So
okay, so
introduce yourself and tell.
yeah, when we met at the conference, I was just like, I have found one of my people. So I am so excited to be here today and have you ask all of the hard questions and just know that I'm an open book. So
I love
feel
it.
free to ask whatever. Just to give you some background on myself, my name is Janelle Basham. I am the executive director of Brave Love. That is the title that I hold right now, but I feel like through my life, like all of us, we all have different titles. So probably my favorite one, other than mom, um, is birth mom. So I am a mom of two children that I parented with my husband. And I say parented, I'm still parenting, but my son is 26 and then my daughter is 22. I'm so close to being an empty nester. And then I placed a daughter for adoption when I was 17 years old. So she will be 32 here pretty soon. And I feel very blessed. My journey has been fun, sad. I feel it's just been an emotional roller coaster and I've just felt it all. And I'm very thankful that I found community during my journey and support, and feel like because of that and wanting to learn from my experience, it's brought me to where I am today. So for people to understand me, my career has been interesting. I made an adoption plan for my daughter when I was 17. Then I went off to college, and after college, went to work at the same adoption agency that I used for the placement of my daughter. And that would
Wow.
have been in the 90s. So kind of scandalous to have a birth mom
Yeah.
as part of the team. But it was such a neat opportunity to be a voice for birth parents and to say, like, hey, let's do a support group. What do we think about this? Or this is what the hospital experience feels like. So being
Yes.
able to have that voice as a birth parent and say, maybe we should be doing things a little bit different. So after I did that for over a decade, and I have to say, while I was there, I also did search and reunion, which was so cool. Adoptees could, connect with the agency and say, hey, I want to search for my birth parents. Such
Wow.
an amazing experience. So
That is
amazing.
really cool.
Yeah, so cool. So from there, I went on to oversee a group home for young ladies that were pregnant. And from there, then I transitioned to overseeing programs for young adults aging out of foster care. So that opened my eyes up to a whole different perspective of adoption,
Yeah.
where before it was like I was in this little safe bubble of the beautiful part of adoption. This is the choices that are made, and we're here to support you. And then I was thrown into the not so beautiful parts of adoption and the hurt and the damage that was being done. And not to say that there wasn't hurt and damage done in
Sure.
private
Right.
adoption, but it
Right.
was like, wow. And to see both ends of the spectrum, and I just embraced it all. It was like, what can I learn from all of this? And how can I use these experiences to have a larger impact? At the same time, my dad was diagnosed with dementia, and I became his primary caregiver. And I had to step away from my career to focus on him and his medical care. And was sitting on my couch one night watching, I don't know, on TV, and it popped up on Facebook that Brave Love was hiring for an executive director, and said to my husband, like, should I put my name in the hat? And he was like, go for it. So a couple months later, I was back
Wow.
at it, and I have loved being in this role. It's such an honor. Number one, to connect with other birth mothers. Like,
Yeah, I can imagine.
they're amazing. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and just to hear their stories, to help with education, and just to help build community for all of us that are impacted by adoption. So that's me, just really, really quick. Yeah.
So take us back to the beginning because I think this is so fascinating when we hear the stories of why. Why
Mm,
did you feel that you needed to make an adoption plan? Why did you choose not to parent that child? I think that's when we really bring humanity back to birth moms. And
absolutely.
I know for me, hearing as an adoptee, hearing the stories and the why and the understanding of that thought
Mhm.
process
Yep.
as it just changed my whole view and it was so healing for me. And so I think that's just really important to hear and understand that. So walk us through a little bit of what that was like. You find out you're pregnant, you're 17, then what? How did you process through that?
This is such a loaded question. And
Sure.
it's interesting because I'm 30 some years down the road. And so answering that question as a 49-year-old versus answering that question as 17, like, I have to go back and say, okay, what was my life like back then?
Yeah,
If I had to make an adoption plan right now, it wouldn't be an option. Like, I have all the support that I
right.
need. Well, right now as 49-year-old, I would be very sad if I was pregnant. Like, I'm so close to being an empty nester. But at 17, just to put it all out there, because I'm an open book, I was living in North Carolina and my daughter is biracial. And so I was exposed to racial tension that I was totally clueless to until all of a sudden people started realizing, like, oh, she's carrying a biracial child. So I very quickly learned how cruel people could be. And was that why I placed? Absolutely not. No way. But I realized I didn't have the support that I needed to make a parenting plan. And I had parents who loved me and supported me, but I also knew, like, I didn't want them to parent her. I
Yeah,
wanted to be mom, and I couldn't give her a stable dad. Like, there is a birth father, but he was not what I needed him to be
sure.
as a father. And so for me, it really was looking at, was I the best option at that stage? I wasn't. I had other issues going on as well. Um, and so I really came to the point of, I don't think I would be successful and give her everything that this kid deserves. Now, at the same time, I had a lot of friends who, because I was at a maternity home. After I found out I was pregnant, I moved to a maternity home and I lived with a lot of young ladies who were making parenting plans, and I respected their decision just like my own decision. So it was very personal. I spent a lot of time really figuring out, and I also made a parenting plan. So I had both plans in place.
That's very interesting. And I
Mhm.
think probably a lot of birth mothers do
Mhm.
have
And
2
they
plans in place and maybe don't necessarily share that because maybe there's shame in not being so confident in your choice. But I think that's so normal, right? And we would talk, I think
absolutely.
society would say, "Oh, failed adoption," but that's not a failed adoption. That is
No,
a mother realizing that she can some way, somehow parent her own child. And I think that's so important to realize that these are not unwanted babies.
absolutely.
And I think that's something that was so important for me as an adoptee, whether that was told directly to me or not. I don't think that was ever those exact words, "you were not wanted," was ever spoken to me. But as an adoptee, that was what I understood, was that I was not wanted. And that's a huge part of the whole healing journey has been hearing how wanted these babies were
Yeah.
and the sacrifice to make an adoption plan. And I think that's just so important to highlight that this is the fact that you had a parenting plan as well is very profound. And I think people need to understand how profound that is.
And a very detailed parenting plan. Very detailed. It was I am a planner. And so it was like, if I can pull this off, I will parent, I will do my best. But it was like things just weren't falling into place. And if it was all about love, like if love was enough, I would have been a fantastic mom.
Right.
But love isn't
It's not.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not in any parenting. It's not
Right.
as an adoptive
Exactly.
parent, it's not as a birth parent, it's love is not enough, unfortunately, it just
Right.
isn't.
If only it was. Life would be so much
Right,
easier.
if only it was, it would be so much better, but it's not, and there are so many factors that go into raising a child. So then you place your daughter. How was that process of healing? Did you have support? You're in this group home. Did you leave right away? Did you go
I did.
back?
Yeah,
Wow. So how
I
was
did.
that as far as, like, post-placement support and
Man,
healing? And, I mean, that had to have been
yeah. Well, I
hard.
have to say, a adoption social worker, if I would not have had her as a social worker, I would not be here today. What she did for me was she set the tone for, "You have these rights. Let's talk this through." Like, she prepared me, and again, she helped me with my parenting plan too. So she really set the groundwork. Now on the flip side, I used an agency. And so as they were educating me on my rights, and again, this is 1994. This isn't like 2024.
Right.
Um, they were also educating the adoptive parents. And so as I was being educated, the prospective adoptive parents were also being educated, which I didn't
That's huge.
see. Like I didn't grasp that at that stage. Now I can
Right.
look back and be like, that the fact that the agency poured into those prospective adoptive parents was preparing them for what was coming, which was, in my situation, it was a relationship with me, and then them embracing, my daughter, and bringing me
Yeah.
into their family as well. So I
Yeah, and
think,
that's huge.
yeah, it for I all so I left the group home. And while I was at the group home, at the maternity home, my parents had moved to a whole different state, gave me a new, setup. Everything's going to be fine, just restart in life. It's a great idea. And so I went home and I really took time to grieve, like really grieved. I tell many stories of a stupid peanut butter commercial that just made me cry every single time. And it was like anytime I felt those tears come up, I just let them come. There was no pushing it down. But just so you know, the peanut butter commercial is, as a parent, you have really tough decisions to make, smooth or crunchy. And I was like, you have no idea the decisions that I've had to make.
Oh,
Peanut butter.
no.
That's
That is
what they did to me.
I
But
mean,
I'm like, what? What? But I really allowed, and I don't know what prepared me for this. I have no idea. It was like my parents moved to this whole new town to give me a brand new start. But I look at it as they gave me a safe haven of being able to grieve and find my new normal, because
yeah,
my new normal was, I have a hole in my heart and I need to learn how to live with that and be successful. And part of my drive was, I do not want to disappoint this child that I place for adoption. I will do better. She will meet me someday and she will be proud of the person I am. And that really, so I delivered in the end of February and I went off to college in August. And that was my drive for those few months. It was, get yourself together. This is a restart. This is, you have someone to be so proud of, and you need to be, the best person that you can be so she's proud of you. Um, was that healthy? I don't know. I should have been in counseling. Like, there's a lot I should have
Yeah.
done, but it was a different era. So
Yeah,
when
for
I
sure.
went to college, it was coming back to the same place that the maternity home was, and there was already a community of birth moms here. So I never was alone in my adoption journey. I always had friends that were birth moms. And
That's
to me, I thought
amazing.
that was normal. Like, I thought, like, oh, all birth moms know each other. And it wasn't until 20 years later that I realized, like, that's not the norm.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm passionate about Brave Love. So I think for me, it was really the adoption, the social worker. She stayed connected with me, and then eventually she became my boss because I went to work at the agency. But then it was the community that I found, and it was the adoptive mom being consistent in her communication and doing what she was going to do, that I was able to not fill that hole in my heart, but learn to live with that hole and be okay with it.
That's very interesting, that living with the whole. I think that that is something that as a society we try to pretend that you can get over it and that you heal it up and it put a nice pretty bow on it and you're done. And that's just not the case. It's a new normal living with that. So then at what point did you reunify? Because I know it wasn't like you waited until she was an adult. Did you have an open adoption or
No.
semi-open? Okay.
Yeah. So again, 1994, people are adoptive parents are supposed to be cautious about birth parents. Like, we're going to come
Right.
see your child. Thank you, Lifetime movies. We do nothing to hurt
I
to
know.
help birth parents. So when I made my adoption plan, I sat down with the adoption social worker, and we kind of made like a communication contract. This is what I want year one to look like. This is what I want year 1 through 5 to look like. And at 17 years old, how do you know what you want communication to look like? But I tried my best and wrote down what I had hoped, and it was letters and pictures every month. I think I had one call with the agency being the in between person. So I didn't know their last name. I didn't know where they lived. I saw 2 pictures of them. And I
Wow.
received a Dear Expectant Mom letter. I didn't see a photo album. I literally stepped out on faith and was like, okay, every door has to open for this adoption to go through, or slam them all closed, and I will parent this child. And the doors just kept opening. So my adoption back then, it was considered mediated, but I had no identifying information, and they didn't have any identifying information on me. When she was about 2, they sent their letter and pictures. Now, granted, it's like a handwritten letter and
Right.
pictures on Kodak paper, and there was a phone book in the background. And I literally went and got like my little, what are they even called now? The I Spy glasses, whatever. Um,
Oh, magnifying.
Thank you, magnifying glass. And I was like, yeah, I know exactly where they live based off of the phone book in the background. So
My goodness.
it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I was like, yes. But it was just that piece of like,
Yeah.
I know where she is. I know where she is. And I didn't have to sit there and think, when we traveled through the state, like, am I going to stop at a Cracker Barrel and see her sitting at a table?
Yeah.
Am I going to go to Target and she's going to walk by me? And how am I going to respond? So it was just this piece of like, I know where she is. So I went to work at the agency, and it was really weird because my file had to be in a different filing cabinet that I didn't have access to. They had to have all these boundaries in place for me. And I was like, no, I could probably, go in there and read everything, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Um, and then when she was, I think, around 6, the laws had changed in Virginia, and the adoptive family was able to connect with the state and say, we want to open up the adoption. And her adoptive parents are fantastic, like fantastic. And so we were reunited. She was 6 or 7. Um,
Okay.
and so ever since then, it's been a beautiful relationship between me and Barb, her adoptive mom. And her mom did such a fantastic job of not only keeping communication open with me, but they adopted 2 other children too. And so
Wow.
she had the same connection, or she has the same connection with those birth parents as well. And so just she made it happen that her kids had that open door to meet the birth family, want to have a relationship with them.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then probably around like 17, 18 years old, when she got like her cell phone and all that stuff, then the relationship kind of transitioned to direct communication with
Yeah.
Catherine and not as much with Barb. And now it's primarily like I'll check in with Barb every once in a while, but it's Catherine and I that have a direct direct communication, and she's made me a grandma. So now I also text my grandson and um
That's so amazing.
yeah. Yeah, it's and I don't want people to hear my story and think like, "Oh, her story is perfect." Oh, it's not. Like it's definitely,
Right. Right.
but I have the gift of looking back with hindsight now and saying like, "Wow, that adoptive family loved me really, really well and set a fantastic foundation for all of us to be able to thrive and to go through the hard times and still like have that foundation to build
Yeah. And I think that's so profound too, because they took the laws changing not as a threat to them, and
upon."
they were willing to look beyond themselves because that's hard. That's not
Yeah.
easy as an adoptive parent to open that door, but for them to be able to put their pride aside or their feelings to the side and do what was best for the child was that is so incredible.
Mhm.
I love that, and I wish
Yeah.
even today more parents would understand that. And you made a comment like, "We're not gonna go kidnap your kids." And I think that is something that we fear. I feared there were a lot of things because I had a completely closed adoption, and my there were things that put fear into me with that were never spoken. It was never said out loud. But I had those fears because that's what society said, and I wasn't allowed to talk to her, and I wasn't allowed to find her until I was 18, and so because of all these things, it created more fear in me, and I think that really ended up being a huge piece of why I don't have a relationship with her today,
Mm.
is
Yeah.
because of the seeds that were planted, intentionally or not, they just were, and it destroyed what could have been
Yeah.
because of all those things. But it's also as it's a reminder too as an adoptive parent, like and I think we have a mutual friend who always says this, the I gotta get it right. The way she words it is so perfect, but there's comfort and safety, and they're not the same thing. And I think that is so profound that your comfort you may be uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that it's unsafe. And they're not gonna come kidnap your children. They're not going to show up on your doorstep. Like,
Yeah.
that's just not it's not a fear you have to live with.
And I think, we've heard the horrible stories. We have.
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
they made movies into them, and, and then
Right.
or their
Has it
brothers have done it.
happened? Sure.
Right. But I think people forget I made a parenting plan and I made an adoption plan. I made this plan for her. I
Right.
like this was my decision. And not that every woman has like she
Right.
could be like, I made this decision, but there's a lot of us that like you don't need to fear. It's like this is what we chose to do. Like we're taking on this pain and this hurt, and to be scared of us, like it's just another stab in the back. Like this is what we chose. Don't be scared of us.
Right. And I think those cases where you're where there were extreme things that happened after the movies were made, you're looking at probably, if you look at the background in the story, you're probably looking at extreme mental illness and, neglect and abuse for that mother, and no support, and no, like, you're probably looking at very extreme cases. The same type of case, are we going to fear every mother because one
Hmm.
ended the life of all of her children? Well, no, that we say that that's extreme, and we acknowledge that that's extreme and not typical. So we should be doing the same thing for birth mothers as well.
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know, a year or two ago, I got up in front of a group and all people who had been impacted by adoption. And I didn't give my title of birth mom. And I just said, when you think of a birth mom, what comes to mind? And it was like inconsistent, drug addict, this, that. And I was like, oh, that is not what I was expecting. And then I just said, like, hi, I'm a birth mom. And I would never want my daughter to hear those things about me. So, as a
Yeah,
society, like, what are we saying about birth parents? Like, is it kind? Is it filled with grace? Is it empathetic? There's a lot of hurt there. And I just want to like share more stories about birth parents, because then it's like, oh, this is what they go through. This is what it's like. So I think it's really important that we are listening to each other, um, adoptees, adoptive parents, birth parents, because in the end, it's the child that needs to win. Like ultimately,
right.
it's we're doing all of this for the child.
Absolutely. And I think too, you have the things that everybody thinks about you. Adoptees, oh, we're all angry. I'm
Yes.
not angry about what happened, and I'm not angry, but I can speak to make a change. And I can use what happened to educate
Hmm.
adoptive parents so that they can make better choices
Yeah.
with their adoptees. And then the same thing with adoptive parents. They have, oh, they're all saviors. They think they're all saviors and they're rescuing. No, there's a lot of them that don't and are doing the hard work. And so society puts these labels on all of us. And if we don't like a label about ourselves, whatever that is, maybe the other side, which there shouldn't be sides, but there are,
Right.
um, but maybe the other side doesn't like the label that's being put on them either. And we need to really think that through and look at all sides and, like you said, consider what is right for the child, because ultimately it's not about either of the parents. It's what is right for that child. And is having an open adoption and having that communication what is right for that child? Do it. Go all in, put your pride aside. Hey, it's Anna popping in here. I just wanted to let you know that this conversation with Janelle was so good, and the episode ended up being so long that we decided to divide it into two parts. So while this is kind of an abrupt ending, I apologize for that. Come back next week, and you are going to get to hear the second part of my conversation with Janelle, which is absolutely fantastic. There's so much truth and so much goodness in these two episodes. So come back next week.